In Visual Studio WinForms, we have a lot of really nice controls that we can use. There's quite a variety, and we haven't looked at all of them, but sometimes there's just a need for another control that does not exist. That control might be made up of multiple controls combined together, a conglomerate of those controls. We can actually create our own user controls in Visual Basic, utilize those in our projects, and even share them in other projects. Let me show you how. On our campus, we use interest-based negotiation, and as proposals are brought forward in our shared governance, leaders vote on their acceptance visually with a thumb vote. A thumbs up accepting, a thumbs down rejecting, and a thumb sideways being a neutral stance or unsure or abstaining. I am envisioning a project that has a control, such as this thumb vote, that the user can click and change their vote from a positive to a neutral to a negative and back to a nothing vote. This is simply a label. It's using 4 icons from an image list. My 2 labels here for the issue title and another label for the description. And that's doable, but what if I want 8 of these? That takes a little more work. I got to copy and paste and change the names and write code for each one of these labels. What if I had a thumb vote control that contained this label and contained the title and the description that could be updated as properties? That's what I'm going to show you how to do in this project. I created a project called Hustedde User Controls. In this project, I can create multiple user controls that will be additional classes. So we're starting to get into object-oriented programming now. We're creating our own classes. I can have multiple classes in this project, and I can then use those classes in other projects. This will sort of be my file cabinet of the user controls that I create and may want to use in other applications. I'm going to come up here to my Solution Explorer. I'm going to right-click on my solution and choose Add. I'm going to add a new item. In the dialog box, I'm going to go to Windows Forms, and there's an option here for user control. Now, you might be tempted to use this custom control. Those are 2 different things. We want the user control, and I'm going to give it, so I'm going to select that. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call this one thumb vote control. I'm going to get rid of that 1 at the end. So it's just thumbvotecontrol.vb. VB tells me it's a class. It's a Visual Basic class. I'm going to click Add. And what I get in my Explorer here is my thumbvotecontrol.vb. I get the designer and I get the RESX resource file. And in the editor panel, I now get a new tab for thumbvotecontrol.vb and look at the design view. And you kind of think of this maybe as a little form. It's just the control, and I can resize that control if I want. I can stretch it out. So I can choose the size of my control. Now what I'm going to do, just kind of cheat here over my form, I've already created these 3 labels. I'm going to cut those, Control X, come over to my thumb vote control and paste. And I want to put these in the upper left-hand corner. And then I can resize my control basically to fit. What I'm going to do is take this label just so I can see where the borders are. I'm going to bring up my properties panel, and let's just give it a border for now. We'll take that border off here in a second. I suppose we could leave it on if you wanted, but now I have a fixed single border. I can see where that is. I can easily now resize this to basically fit that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I want to also bring over my image list. I'm going to select my image list. I'm going to do a Control X to cut it. Go back to my thumb vote control and paste it. So now that image list is part of this control. I'm going to look at the properties of that, make sure I still have those images in my collection, and I do. I need to go back to the label here though and reset it to my image list of IMG thumbs, and so I get the image. Now I need to code this, and I can code my control just as I would code my form. I'm going to double click on this label, and that will get me the LBL vote.click handler. So my label was named LBL vote. Let me just go back to my control, to my GUI here for a minute. LBL vote. LBL title and LBL description. Those are the names of my three labels in this control. And then we have IMG thumbs. Okay, let's go back to our code here. And my code for this is going to be LBL vote.imageIndex equals, and we'll say if LBL vote.imageIndex is less than 3, then I'm going to take LBL vote.imageIndex plus 1. So we're going to add 1 to it. Otherwise, we'll go back to 0. So I'm going from element 3 back to element 0. So it's a cyclical process of choosing that icon that we're going to display in the label. So that's the click event. I also want to be able to modify the LBL title and LBL description text as properties. And to do that, I'm going to create some variables for those. I added 4 variables: C issue title, C issue description, both are strings, and contain some text I'm going to start with, just the issue title and a short description. And then I added 2 more because I want to be able to get the index that was chosen or the value that was chosen. So I created 2 more variables of cVoteIndex, which is an integer, and cVoteValue, which is a string. And that cVoteValue is actually going to be an element from an array that I called votes, and it's a string array containing none, yes, neutral, and no. I put C's in front of these variables because the variable name needs to be a little bit different from my property name that I'm going to create here in just a second. And I use C to say this is a class level variable, or you could also think of the C as this is the control variable. I also want to, when I change the image index of the label, change the values of the cVoteIndex and the cVote value. And there then is the code to do that. Setting cVoteIndex to the image index of my label, and then using that image index as the index value of my votes array to set the cVote value. Next, I'm going to set up properties that can be accessed from the properties window as well as from the code of our main form for this control. And to do that, I need to make them public so they can be accessed from outside of this control from the Form 1 window. So public properties, the name of my first property is going to be issue title. And its value is of string. Press the enter key and type the word get. I'm just going to press the enter key, and it sets up the structure of get, end get, and set, end set. These are called getters and setters. So the get will get the value of the backing field, which in this case is going to be my C issue title. And the set will allow me to change that backing value or that backing variable of C issue title. So to get, we need to return, as we did with our functions, I'm going to return the value of C issue title. And the set is going to be C issue title equals, and in this case, value, because I'm passing it a value as a string. If we're changing that value, so we're setting it, I also want to change LBL title.text to equal that value. Or you could say equals C issue title, either way. Let's create properties for the other 3. I'm going to pause the video here and come back and show you the other 3. Here are the other 3 properties. We'll start with the issue description. It's a string property. The get is going to return C issue description, our private class level variable. In the set, we're passing in a string value, is going to set that C issue description to wherever that value is. And we also want to change the text of LBL description to that value. I use CSU description here. You could also use value as well. The vote index property is an integer value, and it's going to return cvote index. And when we're setting it, we're passing an index of passing an integer value of value. I'm going to set cvote index to that value, but I also want to change the image index of my LBL vote label to whatever that cvote index is. And if I'm changing that, I also want to change the cvote value, which is the string value of whatever icon we're looking at in the label. So cvote value equals my votes string, and the index here is cvote value. Again, I could use value as that index. And then finally, my vote value. Notice it has a read-only modifier in front of property. It doesn't have a setter. It only has a getter. It only returns a value and doesn't allow us to set the value. So here, the get is I'm going to return cvote value. That is the code of my control. Now let's look at how we can use this on our form. I'm going to return to my Form 1 Design tab. Currently is an empty form because we cut those labels and pasted them into our control. Now here's an important step. I need to go to the Build menu and choose Rebuild Solution. That will incorporate that thumb vote control into my project. And in the toolbox, I will now have at the top my thumb vote control. And I can simply grab that and drag that over to my project. And there is my control. If I bring up the Properties window, I can give it a name. Right now it's thumb vote control 1. I'm going to call it TVC issue 1. If I look for the properties, we have a lot of common properties of all controls, such as back color and so forth, font. But notice that there is a issue description and an issue title. I'm going to just change this to issue 1. When I press the enter key, you'll see that changes in my control. Same with issue description. A proposal to allow user controls in CIS 150 AB curriculum. I'm going to press the enter key, and notice that now is part of my LBL description. And I also have the vote index and the vote value. And since it's read-only, it's kind of grayed out. I'm going to copy my control and paste it. So I now have a second one. Let's paste a third one. And I'm going to name these two TVC issue 2 and TVC issue 3. Let's take this one and set the issue title to issue 2, and we'll set this one to issue 3. I'm not going to bother to change the description. You get the idea. I do want to add a button here, though. Let's make this a submit button. We'll name it BTN Submit. And I'm going to code that button. So I'm going to dim vote 1, vote 2, and vote 3 as string. Vote 1 equals TVC issue 1 dot. And here I can choose my different values and my properties that are here. I can get the vote value. I'm just going to copy that. Paste it twice. Let's change those 1s to 2s and 3s. Correct my spelling of vote 2. And this would be issue 2 dot vote value and issue 3. Then I'll add a message box. I'll use an interpolated string calling vote1, comma, space, vote2, comma, and vote3. And a title of my votes. Let me run this. So I can vote on the different aspects here. Let's do one of each. Say submit. And I voted yes, neutral, and no. So by setting up properties of that user control, it makes my code in the form here much simpler. And if I wanted to have 20 issues, the code wouldn't be that much more. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.